Okay, let's go to the next part here, which is that you are not going to see nuanced discussion of this from many figures on the left and right-wing media. So we aggregated some of the absolute worst reactions from both sides. One of our favorite segments always to do. Let's put this up there on the screen. Here are 5 of the worst reactions, from most embarrassing reactions to the Taibbi Twitter thread. From Ben Collins: imagine throwing it all away to do PR work for the richest person in the world. Humiliating shit. Wajat Ali: Matt Taibbi, what sad, disgraceful downfall. I swear, kids, he did good work back in the day. Should be a cautionary tale for everyone. Selling your soul to the richest white nationalist on earth. Oh, that's an interesting one. What he'll eat well for the rest of his life, I guess. Is it worth it? Mehdi: imagine volunteering to do online PR works for the world's richest person on a Friday night in service of a nakedly cynical right-wing narrative, pretending you're speaking truth to power. Chris Hayes: watching some of the most famous, most powerful, and richest men red pill themselves into disaster. Pretty wild. And then finally, what is that? Watching Matt's unbelievable fall into lazy reactionary commentator and now PR hand for the world's richest man is depressing. Did they all get the same note or something?
Yeah, somebody tweeted something out and then everybody just ran with it.
Man.
I mean,
what NPCs?
This is one of the things that bothered me about this reaction is you can feel any way that you want to feel about Matt Taibbi. But first of all, I just genuinely don't understand, if you look at this from a principled perspective, how this is, quote, feeding right-wing narratives. I think it's a story about corporate power and abuse. That seems to me like an American problem, frankly. I mean, it really shouldn't be a left or a right issue. It's something that the Republican base is increasingly concerned about, as we've tracked on this show. A few Republican elites have, at least verbally and rhetorically, made some sort of feint towards concern over this as well. You do have a little bit of bipartisan action on antitrust, even though that's still, predominantly on the left. But if you just look at this from the principles of it, I don't understand why this is a quote-unquote right-wing narrative. In fact, Ro Khanna, who we're going to talk to later today, pops up in this chain of files to say, hey, there's real free speech concerns here. And I'm concerned about the First Amendment, how this is being applied. And oh, by the way, like the way that you're censoring this, I think that you're drawing a lot of attention to something, have the exact opposite intended effect. And I think that's true. I mean, the way they handled this made this story so much more famous and so much bigger than it ultimately would have been had they handled it in like a normal, rational type of way.
Yeah, and let me also say on the journalism front, this is just called journalism, folks. Listen, as Matt also put it, are these the same people that are mouthpieces for the CIA and the FBI accusing somebody of doing PR? It's ludicrous. And I don't even think Matt did PR in any way. Yes, look, Elon clearly is a fan of Matt Taibbi for his perspective of being anti-establishment. That's fine. Okay, so what does Matt do? He takes the files, he doesn't immediately release them, takes 96 hours, calls several sources, doesn't release all the files en masse like a publisher. He actually aggregates and puts out reporting on each individual slide, including information, contextualizes it within a broader narrative. That's called journalism. I mean, what are we pretending that they wouldn't take files from Apple or whomever? Sources always have ideological motivations. You're not doing PR for them whenever you take newsworthy information, add context to it, and put it out into the discourse. As you also say, it's not like it is selectively cherry-picked or edited files. And if it is, then we should be revealed as such to everybody.
Yeah.
Look, we will find out more soon. Elon said he's also given them over to Barry Weiss. I'm looking forward to reading and to seeing anything newsworthy that these people put out. There's also a new narrative going on right now, Crystal, that these Twitter employees are, quote, being doxxed because their names are out there. Give me a break. Like, you people were some of the most powerful in American politics for a 3-month period at the center of a story. You're a public figure now. I'm sorry that your name is out there. However, accountability, responsibility exists. Like, your name was already publicly known, especially Vijay Agade, Yoel Roth, many of these other figures, and any executive who had anything to say in this decision, well, welcome to politics. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You should have gotten a different job. Like, the idea that we are, quote, endangering their lives by talking publicly about who these people are.
About the decisions that they made.
You made a decision that was in the public interest. I personally would make it so that you never were in that sphere in the first place, but you're in it now. So yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, you accepted these positions of power and responsibility, and I'm sure the compensation that came with it. And so now you're afraid of like any public scrutiny of your decision making. I want to underscore, because I think what you said, Sagar, is really important about the fact that reporters take information from sources who have an axe to grind and an ideological motivation all the time.
Yes, I
That
would
is
too.
All the time.
Yeah,
I mean, the number of stories that reporters are being fed from the Biden team, from the Trump team, from whoever, trying to get out there their narrative and their, ideological narrative. I mean, obviously the deep state is doing this all the time, trying to mold and shape the discourse. And what a good journalist does is they take that information, they consider the source and the axe they have to grind or whatever their ideological inclination is. They balance that against whatever is out there, and then they release it to the public in a way that, provides the facts and isn't slanted towards one side or the other. But to say, like, if your source has some sort of, axe to grind or ideological inclination or some reason, motivation to get this information out there, that you should just ignore it and not put it out there, that's just counter to what journalism ultimately is. So I think there was a real, I don't understand why there's a freak out about just having the information out there. To me, understanding more, seeing in real time, ultimately it looks like what happened with the Hunter Biden thing was more a story of like corporate incompetence and failing to understand the impact of this decision. A few ideological actors who sort of like grabbed the reins, an absentee owner. So oftentimes what looks like more of a grand conspiracy ends up just being like incompetence and a cluster. And that's what I really got out of these files ultimately. And I think it's useful to have that information, again, if we're going to think seriously about how to deal with these problems. At this point, I have seen very few people who are still willing to defend the actions that Twitter took with regards to this New York Post story. Everybody acknowledges, like, this was a total disaster. So why wouldn't you want to get under the hood of, like, how did this happen so we can make sure that things are handled in a more intelligent, rational, and balanced way going forward?
Absolutely. So we also have aggregated some humiliating right-wing reactions. Let's put this up there on the screen. We got some really good ones that our producers put together. The Twitter files prove how radical leftists manipulate policy to silence conservatives. The traitors must need to be investigated immediately. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that the Hunter Biden laptop was suppressed by Twitter in order to help Biden. But it did take a rocket engineer to buy Twitter and to get the files released. So Eric Bullock, great stuff so far. Elon, they're powerful, evil people who don't want this to see the light of day. Keep a watchful eye on your six. I cannot wait for tomorrow's drop. And then finally, truth will ultimately prevail where pain is taken to bring it to light.
I saw people calling for
Biden
to be impeached over this.
Right.
I saw people saying this was the greatest presidential scandal in the history of the country. I mean, literally they're saying
even
this.
though Trump was president.
Biden wasn't even president then, guys. I mean, by the way, the Trump campaign, they may have had less of their requests honored, but they were doing the same shit. So what are you going to do with that? I mean, the attempt to paint this as like the greatest, most bombshell revelation in the history of the earth was sort of absurd. A lot of this, like I said, was sort of a little more texture on things that we kind of already knew. The biggest original bombshell was just the handling of this laptop material to start with. In some ways, what comes out of these is, I would say, significantly less of a bombshell than some of the reporting that, say, Ken Klippenstein has ultimately done. So the attempt to be like, oh my God, this is like Republic ending and Biden needs to be impeached over it. And also, by the way, to totally ignore that the Trump campaign is doing the same thing on the other side was incredibly silly.
And then we also have this, my personal favorite.
Yeah,
this
is really next level.
A GOP rep calling for candidate openly calling for violent revolution over the Hunter Biden laptop now. He says, quote, "It is only by bullets now."
We can no longer get rid of tyranny by the ballots. It's only by bullets now.
Everybody just calm down. Yes, we think it's bad. Yes, we are looking at a much deeper conversation around corporate power, etc. But I don't think that any of that is necessary.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.